This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Perry. And with me today, I have Mr. Charles Freeman. Charles is a chartered financial analyst and lives in Greensboro, North Carolina. He graduated from UNC Chapel Hill and has been an investment manager for 23 years. He's also an aspiring tennis player, guitarist, and chess player. And, you know, what I found out about him, in the pre-show is he plays bass in a cover band. How cool is that? I think you're the very first guest on the show that's, plays in a band. That's pretty sweet. But you're also on chess.com, which he and I realized we have that in common. So we're going to have to geek out someday and find each other there. Tell us a little bit about some of these hobbies, Charles. Like, why are they so important in your life as you're this CFA, but you've got these things on the side?
Yeah. So, I kind of describe myself as a life learner. I just have a lot of interest in different things and enjoy experiencing different things. And so just throughout my life, I've come into contact with different, games like chess or sports. Right now I'm really into tennis. For a long time, I was into fencing, which is a little bit out of the box for a lot of people, but I came across that in college and just fell in love with it and did it for probably about 12 years. So I just enjoy different things. And so I have a lot of different hobbies. And at times to your point about balance, it can be tricky because, I really enjoy all of these things. And the more time you spend to one, the less you're sort of taken from another. So yeah, but I enjoy them. So I want to experience them as much as possible. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's great. And there are important aspects of life, which we're going to talk about balance a little bit today. As we were discussing what we used to do back in the day of Commodore 64 and Atari and role-playing games, it just brought me back to that more, just less really complicated time in life. Like we're very much a complicated society with technology and everything, and that's helpful and handy. Yeah, but it's so fun to think about jumping from pad to pad on an Atari or programming some basic programming on a Commodore 64 back when I was like 10 years old. And this kind of brings a different flavor to what I know our listeners are typically used to when we talk about balance. But just kind of start it off there. What is your definition of balance? What do you see as kind of your guide is, when you're trying to be more balanced in life and get to that more simpler state?
I see balance as kind of like, in a lot of ways, being in the middle. And actually with what I do with work, what I've studied a lot about valuations and things like that, and mean reversion is actually a very powerful force in markets. And I think balance kind of translates into so many different parts of your life, whether it's on the personal side or through work. So I look at a lot of different things, and when I start to see an extreme level of whatever it is, it brings me back, and I'm like, okay, this is out of balance because there's this extreme thing happening, and I know that it's not likely to last at that extreme level. So it's been really interesting how the term, balance kind of comes up pretty often for me on a work standpoint and just from life in general. So my girlfriend says it's my favorite word. So that's yeah.
Well, that's good. And I'm sure she is part of that, right? She's part of helping to have that balance.
Absolutely.
We'll get to that in a second. So kind of being in the middle, being able to be flexible. I like these ideas. I like where you're headed. What do you see as an issue for most advisors who are struggling with balance? And I know everybody has a different definition. That's why I like to talk about it in your context. And I love to interview advisors about this, and hence have written the book Achieving Balance because of that, because of so much experience with helping advisors and interviewing them and trying to find out what really is balance for them. But what do you think, like in the industry as a whole, you work with advisors, you see them on a daily basis, you talk to them at least, and what do you see as kind of those issues?
I think the biggest issue for financial advisors is you have to wear so many hats to be successful, and because you're wearing so many hats, it can be you can get out of balance pretty quickly. What I see a lot of times is, and the roles are very different, like to be able to, so as an advisor, you have to find people, right, to help them with their financial goals. And then second of all, you have to come up with solutions and strategies, for whatever problems they're struggling with. And sometimes the skill set to do those two things can be pretty far apart. And so what I find is that advisors have a difficult time, again, balancing the two separate roles. Like they may really enjoy meeting with clients and the relationship building, and then they hate doing the investment research, and the actual trading of someone's account or something like that. And it can be vice versa. They may really enjoy the research, analytical side of it, and then they don't enjoy the relationship management side. So, and then there's also for I think newer advisors who are growing their business, you're also dealing with more of the operational things as well, because maybe they don't have the AUM to hire an ops manager or an assistant. So I think you're just, as a financial advisor, you're just pulled in so many different directions that it's very easy to find yourself out of balance. So I think it's kind of a constant struggle.
Clearly, there's so much going on as an advisor. You've got to be worried about, as you've mentioned, you feel pulled in all these different directions. One of my very first clients, Michael, told me that exact same feelings. Like, Travis, I just feel pulled in every direction. And he'd been in the industry for several decades, and he's still feeling it. Like it never got better for him. And so I know that's exactly how a lot of advisors feel. New advisors to veterans, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're feeling it. What do you think contributes to that the most? Do you feel it's the education of trying to learn everything you can about advising clients? Is it the sales? Is it the service? Is it compliance? Do you ever see like maybe one or two of those being is the biggest problem, or do you see it in that advisors with their own maybe personality or lack of organization? Like, what I'm curious, what maybe you have pinpointed or see as like that's it, like that's the biggest issue.
I generally work with a lot of newer advisors. So, I mean, advisors with kind of, let's say under 25 million AUM. And for them, the biggest issue is on just growing your business, right? Because you have to, there's like a 95% turnover rate in the industry. And so just if you like make the decision, I mean, because it's amazing career, but it's very difficult, to get over that kind of startup hump and to, find enough clients to where you're not eating ramen noodles every night, or you have to support, your family, and, you have personal obligations you have to meet. So I think I think a lot of times the stress of that is really hard to manage, because and I think what's added to that is the environment has changed. Because I mean, 25 years ago, you might not have wanted to, but you could pick up the phone book and you could cold call your way to a book of business. People would actually, meet you for lunch, and they might be open to hearing what you had to say. Um, that's not the case anymore. I mean, nobody answers the phone anymore. If they don't have your number programmed into their phone, they're not picking up. And if you leave a voicemail, you're not likely to get a call back, even if it's a referral. I think it's a very difficult to connect with people these days. Ironically, even though we're in a world that is more connected theoretically than ever before. So I think that the pressure for, growing the business, then you start neglecting some of the other things, right? And I think that's where it can be especially detrimental, because you do get into that. You're starting to, because you feel this pressure to make it. You're working 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, and you start neglecting your family and your hobbies and things. So because you're just trying to make it, right? You're just trying to get going. So that's one of the things that I see as one of the biggest issues for the advisors I talk to.
Yeah. So with that group of advisors, I think you nailed it. Like, they're just building the business, trying to scale, trying to get more of their time back, and then it affects the rest of their life if they're not careful. I mean, when I entered the business, it was Travis worked nights and weekends for 5 to 10 years, depending on how quickly you build it. And then after that, you can live whatever kind of lifestyle that you want. And I really think the industry is kind of to blame for this, because they want all of you for that time. And they want you to they want to take you like spaghetti and throw you against the wall and see if you'll stick. And that's the thing they kept telling me. It's like, they just want to see if you're going to stick. I'm like, I'm going to stick because I'm stubborn. Like, I'm not going away, but I'm not working nights and weekends. I'm not going to do this bit because my family is more important to me. And I started finding myself slipping into what I call the workaholic trap. And I think the workaholic trap is kind of paved by the industry itself, saying, let me teach you how to become a financial advisor, jump on a big BD, a life insurance company, or even at the bank and work, whatever product we got for you, work it hard. And then if you survive, in the meantime, you also get your CFP or CHFC or CFA, then consider you a planner and you can charge a fee and you can actually start to scale your time. Until then, sell what we have. And I've noticed that a lot of these younger advisors, at least coming out of college, are getting smarter about where they're starting, how they're starting. I love what XY Planning is doing, XY Planning Network. I've spoken at their venues several times, and others who have really tried to help these younger advisors learn how to create a business model that doesn't require you to commoditize what your service is, that you can actually create a business with recurring revenue from the get-go that is scalable and allows you to live a lifestyle better. So yeah, I can't agree with you more on that, Charles. I would have to say for that demographic, you're exactly right. Well, as an advisor to advisors, because I know you're meeting with them, you're helping them, and we'll get into what it is exactly that you do here in a second. But I know you see a lot of them, but you're also in the industry. Like, you're a CFA. You are kind of like a back part of the office for a lot of these advisors, and therefore you're in the business. So as an advisor and as advisor to advisor, what is some of your biggest issues? What personally do you struggle with the most when it comes to balance? The good, the bad, the ugly, and maybe even anything you've learned from that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I struggle with is just being able to turn it off. As an investment analyst, and and I have a Bloomberg terminal, so markets are basically going 24/7, and there is a bajillion people out there just making, writing stuff, and there's research, and there's, looking at charts, and, running different types of analysis. And I'm such a kind of a data head. Like I want to read as much as I can. I want to do as much as I can and then filter that and come up with my own ideas and view about where I think the market's going and the risks that are out there. And honestly, I just have a hard time turning it off. I mean, like this last year especially has just been very difficult. Like I don't sleep a lot because I'm just literally like laying in bed and I'm thinking about different things. And so that's really one of the big issues for me, is trying to find a way to just unplug and really be present with. So if my girlfriend and I have a date, one night is to, not, talk the whole time about what's going on with work. So, that kind of stuff is to be present and just talk about other things. So that's something I really try to focus on, and I really try to do better about. And I kind of, I'll do better with it, and then I won't, and then I'll do better with it, and then I won't. So I kind of flip back and forth. So just, I think going forward, I've made a lot of progress. But it's a constant work in progress. So I think that's probably the main thing that I struggle with. And now actually the other thing too, I would say, is the way the business is kind of evolving. It's sort of balancing the different aspects, because I do have my own personal practice where I'm helping people with their investments. I have started consulting with other financial advisors as an outsourced chief investment officer. And actually the RIA that I started, I've had a lot of advisors who have asked to kind of come up under my umbrella, because the business model we've set up, it actually started out with a friend of mine and was not actually planned, but it's become a pretty attractive model for a lot of financial advisors, and that piece of the business is growing too. So I think going forward, one of my challenges is going to be, making sure I organize my time in the right way, so that I am giving all of those different things the attention that they need. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah. Sleep is the number one thing that I find that advisors struggle with when it comes to their health. It's sleep.
Right.
I'm on Clubhouse a tiny bit. I just kind of started because I have another advisor to advisors, and her name is Steven. Steven helps advisors with their health. Like that's her market. That's what she does. We'll have her on the podcast actually next week to record. But she talks a lot about exercise and nutrition and things. And we got into discussions on sleep before, and it's totally it. Like it really does keep you up at night because you're not able to let it go. I have a whole podcast that I recorded on that topic. I'll have to share it with you, Charles. But it is so true. Like when you're struggling, when you're stressed, it's difficult to let the brain slow down long enough for you to get into really deep sleep. And the bad about that is that once you're not able to sleep really well, you can't perform the next day as good as you would if you did. So it becomes this cycle. And, you kind of nailed it. Like, I'm doing really good, and then I slow down. And I think everybody can relate to that. Just being able to turn it off, because now, I'm working from home, you're working from home, everybody's working from home to some aspect, of their business. And it's, do I go in the office? Do I open up my laptop? Or, gee, I have everything here on my phone.
Right.
How do I do that?
Yeah.
So boundaries are key. At least I found boundaries are so important. And to stay present, like you start talking about being present, That's great that you and your girlfriend don't talk about business for a period of time. And I know people that work together. That is an even more struggle, bigger struggle. Like, I do not talk about it when you're dealing with it every day, all day, and you work from
Mm-hmm.
home. Yikes!
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the best principles that I can, share with people is that when you go out on dates, when you're with your spouse or a significant other, that you don't talk about work for that period of time. Talk about it later. Still share,
Right.
but spend the time to be with each other. What great advice. I think that's really awesome. You started getting into a little bit about what you do. Not only do you help clients, but you also help advisors. Talk to us a little bit about that. How do you help advisors as kind of this outsourced CIO?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because when I left my previous firm to start the RIA 3 years ago, and a few months after I did that, my one of my good friends had reached out to me, and he wasn't happy at the broker dealer where he was at, and he said, "Why don't I just bring my advisory book over to you, and you can help me with, the billing, the compliance, some trading." And I already had those systems kind of set up for myself. And I tend to be pretty good at systems and efficiency. So we kind of looked at it, and I said, "Well, I think I can bring you in, and I think I can do it." But because we're friends, I mean, that's something that I've in my experience over the years. It's like when you're in a business with friends or family, um, that can make things difficult at times, with the business. And so I told Greg, I said, "Look, man, I want to make this friends first. And so if there's ever a situation where you feel like another solution makes sense, then, hey, I will totally support you, help you any way I can to go somewhere else." And so that attitude, I think, I basically looked at it to say, in the previous situations, previous companies that I was in, there were times where I felt like I was treated unfairly, whether it was from a payout standpoint or something was, restricted. I had to use some stupid form that was irrelevant. And when you start your own company, you have the opportunity to do things the way you think they should have been done. And so that's what I've tried to do with this. And so, Greg came on board, and then I kind of floated the idea out to a few other people. And we're now up to 12 advisors that have kind of come on board. And we actually just expanded beyond North Carolina. An advisor in California joined us, and one in Maryland actually recently joined us. So, and basically what I'm doing there is just providing a platform for them to grow their business. So it's kind of a siloed approach where, I run my book, Greg runs his book, Jim runs his book, Leslie runs her book, and we can collaborate. And that's why I call it the advisor cooperative, because we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And but there's no restriction, there's no requirement to do joint work. There's no production minimums or anything like that. So that's kind of one thing I've got going on. And then the other thing that has kind of came up just from my LinkedIn stuff is I've posted research on LinkedIn. And as I've become more and more connected with people and financial advisors, I've had several reach out and say, "Hey, Charles, I really like what you're posting there. I like your ideas and your philosophy." They were sort of struggling with the balance issue of doing the investment management and investment research and maintaining the relationship building. And like one guy, he just didn't enjoy the investment piece. And he's like, "I really just prefer to try to work on relationships and continue building them. And I'm wondering if I can outsource, that piece of the business." And so we kind of talked about a solution. And so through that conversation, I now have 3 advisors that I'm acting as an outsourced CIO for. And yeah, I'm basically doing model building for them. And really it's like a TAMP, but it's more personal because, I can kind of provide the investment solutions, But then, like if they had a client, like if they had $1 million client that they were a little bit nervous about maybe talking to because maybe they're not as experienced, they can bring me on the call and I could walk them through some things on Bloomberg. I can get pretty in the weeds from a sophistication level. So I think that helps advisors feel like they have a real resource that they can tap into, and if the situation calls for it. So yeah, I'm hoping to maybe grow that over the next year or so, and see if I can connect with more advisors who might be looking for something like that. And I'm doing it on a flat fee basis. That's the other sort of difference. Most TAMPs, it's like 30 bips or something like that, and I'm just doing it on a flat fee, which is considerably cheaper than what that would be.
That's wonderful. I think what you're doing is definitely needed, right? There's people out there that need that balance. We're talking about all the different, places that they're being pulled. If it's becoming an investment specialist and really understanding to help your clients and service and sales and growing the business all at the same time, you're able to help those who want some help or maybe even offload most of that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your research, like whenever I'm on LinkedIn, it's like comments, cool stuff, and then there's charts by Charles. Boom. And maybe you need to go by that, Charles. Charts by Charles, like
charts by Charles. I like it. That's funny.
Like every time I just see this black screen with numbers all over the place, like there he goes again. Again. Like, and I read it, I love it, and I can. Those advisors who really just want to create those relationships, because really at the end of the day, advisors are in this business, planners are in this business because they like relationships, they like people. And that's one aspect that on the service side, I know a lot of advisors get caught up in, I've got to reply to every email, every phone call, or else I'm not the best advisor. And I really care about the relationships. They care about these relationships. And they do. I mean, they're not accountants. No offense, accountants. They're not accountants who, just plug in numbers and chugging and getting tax stuff done and strategies. And it's all useful. But advisors really are that person that they can turn to, they can go to, and they want to be that. So they tend to put all of their emotional energy into these clients. And they got caught off with, well, now I've got to be this investment specialist and the insurance specialist and everything else. It can be quite daunting. So I think what you're doing is totally needed, very essential. I love it that you provide a flat fee for that. And yeah, you can get in the weeds. You are an advisor, you are a CFA, you know what you're doing. If people want to learn more about that process and they want to learn how, they can free up some time and be more balanced by utilizing you, where should they go?
Just our website, www.adaptfirst.com. And on the homepage, there's kind of a button there for individual investors, to click on if they wanted more, direct management. But then you can also, as a financial advisor, click on that button. It kind of takes you to the page. It talks about the advisor cooperative and the OCIO service there. So just the homepage, and kind of click on that financial advisor button.
Yeah, it's great. I'm here right now, adaptfirst.com. For those who are wanting some additional help, or maybe even a place to land, right? You kind of provide both. So great having you on the show, Charles. I appreciate your energy and your willingness to share your information and help us to be more balanced advisors. All the best to you, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Yep. Thanks so much, Travis. I really appreciate it, man. And I really, it's been a great opportunity to kind of share some thoughts, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody ever wants to reach out. So.